I want to better understand the budget as a whole before I come down in terms of increasing taxes. It seems to me that, I mean, the county gets a lot of money. And so one of the places I would start is with an evaluation of the programs. I know there have been cuts over the last number of years, but it's not clear to me that the commissioners have set policy that is easily translatable into setting priorities for spending money. The budget's not organized that way, for example. And it's not clear to me either that there is a strong, if you will, a work plan management system that's accountable and that tracks back to policies, to priorities. I'd look there first before I would do anything in terms of raising taxes.
I stood up and actually said I was against putting in a tax increase before the voters. I don't think in these economic times that that's a thing that should be done. One of the things that I think we should be looking at is probably cutting back as opposed to increasing taxes. I know the families in this community, their incomes haven't gone up. They've certainly gone down in the last couple of years, and I think that we need to do some belt tightening. Don't know where that belt tightening can take place, but I'm certain that with a detailed look at the individual budgets, that can take place. And I think that one of the commissioners even tried to look at the different departments, and he did not get a complete detail or accounting from the individual departments as to what could or couldn't be cut. So I think without an actual detailed list from the individual departments to where they could actually go in and say, okay, can this be cut? That's kind of a hard thing to say, okay, we can cut this or we can't cut that. But I believe that process should take place, and I believe that's a process that should be taking place with the county commissioners and with managers of the different departments. I do support the Colonia initiative. In fact, there is actually a federal program that is also present that can help with meeting some of the needs in the colonias. I've already been in contact with the administrator for the federal government, FC. I just don't grab her last name immediately right now, but I know her by her first name quite well. I've talked to her, and we've discussed what those are, and I'm fully supporting of the Colonia initiative. What the county convention can do is do everything they can to ensure that the needs are prioritized within those colonias, and if there's state funding available, then also then that could be applied as well.
Well, there is a priority setting process that's already in place. That's been in place for a good while. I think that what I would like to explore is whether or not the simple sort of numerical enumeration of specific problems against, for example, whether or not there are land use measures in place or whether there's an adequate sewer system in place. I think number one is, I'm not sure that all the criteria are adequate. Just as an example, I think we should be looking at the colonias as communities that we need to be paying attention to economic development and to training and those kinds of things. There's nothing in the current criteria that gives any consideration to a variable like that. The other thing is that I think we need to be clear about what our overall objectives are. And this is what I mean by setting policy. Policy should be able to help you separate different kinds of colonias and different kinds of problems from one another. It should be something that gives direction. And again, we don't have that yet. I'm inclined, for example, to say that we ought to be looking at the colonias as whole communities, and that part of the objective should be building those communities and relationships of communities, rather than simply looking at it as a piece of infrastructure here or there. I think we have to. There's a part of this that the role of county government is to deal with health and safety and general welfare, the quality of life in the county. And a part of that, we do need to be paying attention to the fact of our rural areas. Not that 4-H is just about rural areas, but that's an important part of building capacity. I mean, people talk about jobs as being an important part of the overall need of this area. If we don't pay attention to programs like 4-H, we're eventually going to hurt our agriculture programs, and I just think that that's very, very short-sighted. These, if you look at them in the context of the whole budget, are tiny amounts of money. I understand that it's a serious problem with the budget, but to say that we're not going to put money into youth and to gardening and to some of the other special needs, that this should be a collaboration, and I think that's part of what the county can do, is little seed money here and there.
I fully support the 4-H program, also the county extension program, which is one program that was Billy didn't mention, but the county extension office, I think, has a very important role to play within this county and with any county or municipality. I've had the opportunity to use the county extension office myself on a number of things. And so I think that that's extremely important, and I think it has a service that should not be discarded or discontinued. As far as the 4-H program, it does provide the youth a learning experience. And what we have to remember about 4-H is that this county is made up of heavy farming. It is a big employer for jobs in this county. Many of the youth that are involved in 4-H get their beginnings as far as farming, as far as agricultural, as far as their animals, their livestock. When they raise those, they get that beginning in 4-H. So to not support that program, I think, would be disastrous. And when we have a community which is heavily dependent upon farming as employers, I think it would be a travesty to not support it. So that's kind of my position on it, and I would be dead set against reducing any funds to those.